Morning and welcome to Indiana Ship's Facebook Live What to Know Wednesday. I'm Melanie Garland and I am joined by my two lovely co-hosts, Miss Megan Rogers. How are you today, Megan?
I am good, Melanie. How are you?
Doing wonderful. And last but not least, we also have Miss Susan Spilly on with us today. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, you guys are both wearing pink. It must be almost springtime, pretty in pink. I didn't get the memo, so I'll just keep my green on. But all right, well, we're very excited for today's topic and to share with you one of our favorite things about SHIP in general, and it's our volunteers. So we get to tell you how you can be a volunteer, what it takes to be a volunteer, and we get to give a shout out to our volunteers, which is also one of our favorite things to do. So in spirit of National Volunteer Month, we're just going to tell you about our volunteer program. And I think it was in February, we did a shout out to our volunteers on Valentine's Day just to spread a little love. And our director, Cheryl, she had a sign that said, counselors are the heartbeat of SHIP. And I think today, as we go through our presentation, you're going to learn that that is 100% true. So, ladies, we're going to go ahead and dive in. Maybe. All right. Oh, here we go. So we're going to discuss volunteering for SHIP, and our volunteers really do drive our SHIP program. We have volunteers all throughout the state that help individuals with Medicare. So we're going to take a closer look at the different ways that you can volunteer for SHIP. One of my most favorite ways to, I guess I can say, work for SHIP, but our counselors and our volunteers that volunteer their time, we do lots of outreach events. So you may see us throughout the community in your local areas all over the state of Indiana, from health fairs to mobile food pantries to food pantries not on wheels, to health fairs, just different events where we know that we're going to get in front of an audience that is going to be able to benefit from the information that we're sharing. So we're wanting to get in front of folks that have questions about their Medicare, that may be new to Medicare, that may be wanting to learn about how to lower costs with some of their Medicare. So we're educating folks on programs and information that can hopefully help them navigate Medicare better. So one of our I guess it's been a couple years that we've started being more involved with different outreach events within the Pride community. And I know that's coming up in June. So Susan, I'm going to kind of pass it over to you to talk about maybe a fun memory from some of those events that you have worked.
Yes, I do have some fun memories of different Pride events that I participated in, along with volunteers. Mary and I went down to Lagodi, Indiana, which is in southern Indiana, and they had their first Pride Day. And so Mary and I got the opportunity to participate in that. And really, it had great turnout. All kinds of people came and took part in the festivities, which were right on the downtown. It's not a square, it's kind of a triangle area. And so that was super fun, and I appreciated Mary going with me. We've also had a booth at the Indy Pride Fest, which is the largest Pride Fest. Over 70,000 people were there, and we had a really good space for our booth right next to the sidewalk and the cocktail tent. And our other coworkers have been down to Bloomington and farther in Southern Indiana. Southern Indiana Pride has a huge festival in Jeffersonville, and our volunteer Mary and her husband Roy went with our coworkers Jeff and Juan Manuel. And so they went down to do Southern Indiana Pride Fest last year, and it was 95 degrees. I kept telling them, don't go, don't go. It's not worth making yourself sick. But they were a dedicated group, and off they went with their tent and their fans and their coolers. and really had a good time down there, even though it was so hot. So lots of interactions with LGBTQ plus communities, reaching out to them to make sure that everybody is counted.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. And Megan, you headed up a pretty big, I think it was maybe a couple years ago. Was this the Blueberry Festival? I think. So we've mentioned health fairs and resources, but you never know where we're going to pop up. So Megan, I'm going to kind of let you share all of the volunteers and folks that helped you out with the Blueberry Festival and maybe telling us a little more about it.
Yeah, thank you, Melanie. So yes, about 2 or 3 years ago, we had a booth at the Marshall County Blueberry Festival. It is one of the bigger events that Northern Indiana has, and it draws hundreds of thousands of people. And it runs from, it goes during Labor Day weekend, and it runs that Thursday night before Labor Day all the way to 6 o'clock on Labor Day Monday. And so we had a lot of people we had to get to staff. Now Susan came. We also I had some volunteers from Valpo that came, from Elkhart that came to help, from South Bend. So we had a wide range of individuals that came. My husband even pitched in, even though he was not very thrilled about this, but he participated and helped with taking down the booth and walking me home, because apparently I couldn't walk across the street by myself. Um, so he was helping me out, but we had a great time with the counselors that came to provide the information to the crowd that was there for the Blueberry Festival.
That's great. That's wonderful that we had so many volunteers drive outside of their areas to come
Yes.
and spread and the outreach and the education. So even though we're providing this wonderful Medicare information and education, but we also get to have a little fun while we'll do that too.
Mhm.
So I remember when I first started with SHIP, Susan always talked about the fun with the outreach events, and our counselors and our volunteers definitely get involved with that. So it is about giving that information out and helping beneficiaries with their options, but we have fun while we do it. And you can see on one of our pictures, it's a little easier to see, there is some giveaway items there too. So we provide a lot of written materials that our counselors can share with folks that are needing a little bit more information on Medicare and just different topics specific to maybe what they're looking for. And then as well as fun little giveaway items, from chip clips to magnifiers to nail files to pins. Of course, everyone has pins and notepads, but you never know what we're going to come up with. So kind of the I guess the essential part of SHIP counseling is really getting that information to the Medicare beneficiary and maybe their loved ones or their family members that are helping them with their Medicare options as well. And we do that through our volunteers that provide SHIP counseling. So SHIP counseling can be provided in person. It can be provided in a bunch of different areas. So we have a picture of how we counseled during the healthcare emergency during the pandemic. We were still had dedicated counselors and volunteers that were providing services just a little bit from a distance. And then we have another counselor that's providing services there at her SHIP site during one of our open enrollment events just this last year, I believe. So but that SHIP counseling is to provide folks with a more personalized feel on what they need. That one-on-one appointment provides that personal, private time to where any beneficiary and family member can ask questions and get answers on their Medicare health coverage. So a lot of our SHIP counseling will entail doing personalized plan comparisons. So we'll use Medicare.gov to help folks navigate that website, navigating their plan options as far as prescription drug plans go, looking at Medicare Advantage plans, comparing the options between an Advantage plan and a supplement. And then we also help folks apply or look into Medicare savings programs if they're a more of a person that has a lower income and they may qualify for some assistance to help with their out-of-pocket Medicare costs. So we're always thinking about that, always screening folks for that as well. So all of that is provided through our SHIP counseling. So SHIP counseling is typically done in person, but the public health emergency taught us a lot, taught us how to do Facebook Lives, but it also taught us how to counsel virtually. So we do a lot of video conferencing for counseling for folks that may not be comfortable getting to a site, or maybe they want a family member to be involved. Just last week, I had a counselor. She was all set up. She met with the Medicare beneficiary in person, and then to her right on the computer was the Medicare beneficiary's daughter who had Zoomed in so that she could be a part of the appointment. So kind of hybrid virtual counseling in person. So our SHIP counselors really do try to go the extra mile to meet the beneficiaries' needs. So we really appreciate all of our counselors that work with beneficiaries and help them with their Medicare questions and plan options. So all right. So, learning more about our SHIP counselors. All of our SHIP counselors are trained. So, we put them through an extensive initial new counselor training so that they learn all the things about Medicare. And even more important than that training, I believe, is that we give them the tools that they need during their Medicare counseling. So, we have lots of information, written information, tools. We have our own website that SHIP counselors can go to get information and materials. And then we have lots of printed materials for resources that our SHIP counselors can use during their counseling. In addition to our training, we also follow up with our trainers. We also follow up with our counselors and our volunteers, and we support them throughout the year. So our volunteer supervisors, I am one of those here in the Southwest region, and Megan is representing the Northwest region. And then we have 5 more sprinkled all throughout the state to be that support. So be that support of our volunteers in our SHIP sites and community partners. So one of the things that we start with our counselors once they're done with their training is we provide mentoring. So that mentoring is done by maybe a seasoned counselor, or it can be done by their volunteer supervisor, or maybe another staff person by SHIP, or another the local coordinator of the SHIP site that they serve with, another individual that works there. So that mentoring gives the counselor the opportunity to get their questions answered after they go through that training, to watch a seasoned counselor or staff person take client appointments, and then to be supported when they take client appointments. So we let folks really get comfortable and have someone to go to with their questions before we set them free. We want everyone to feel comfortable before they do those one-on-one appointments. So ladies, I know you both offer counseling to clients, and you also offer mentoring to our new counselors. So I'm going to ask you each to maybe share a little bit more about mentoring or a story that you have, just to show a little bit more about how we do support those new counselors. Megan, we'll start with you.
All right, thank you, Melanie. I had to find my mute button. It disappears on me each time. So yes, so after we're done with training, we do go into that mentoring phase. And I do a mix of in-person mentoring, on the phone mentoring, and Zoom mentoring. And not only am I meeting the needs of the client, but I'm meeting the needs of the counselor. Maybe we're not in the same county, because as volunteer supervisors, we serve a pretty big region. So I utilize Zoom quite a bit to help get more mentoring and more client appointments completed. So I think that works really well because we're on Zoom. I can share my screen like you see Melanie's PowerPoint. You know, my counselor is on the Zoom. The client is either on the phone on Zoom with us, or in person. And the counselor can hear me, the client, and see what we're doing on the computer. So even though the counselor may not be with us live, they still are. And they're able to see what we're doing, hear what we talk about. And then when we're done with the appointment, I stay on with the counselor and we talk about any questions that they have. So they are on track with what I'm saying. And if they don't understand something I told the client or something the client asked didn't make sense, we can talk that out after the client appointment.
Thank you, Megan. That's great. So not only do we use our Zoom and our video conferencing for our clients, but we use that to reach our counselors too.
Mhm.
So that's awesome and way to think outside of the box. So not only do our volunteers go the extra mile for their clients, I think our volunteer supervisors do too. So, all right, Susan, talking about going the extra mile, I say you live up to that too.
Well, thank you, Melanie. Yes, so there was an instance where I had some new counselors at the one site that I supervise, and it was towards the tail end of the pandemic, and we were doing some virtual counseling, virtual mentoring like Megan does, and we had done some phone calls, we had done some role plays, we had done some where I would help the client on Zoom and they would be watching. But what they really wanted was some in-person things. So not a problem. I headed down 65, about an hour south of me, and they scheduled, it was a couple who were new to Medicare. And those are some great sessions to teach and train with because you get a little bit of everything. Well, now this couple, they were delightful, I will tell you, but they had done a lot of homework and they presented a lot of information about Medicare. Some of it was correct, and some of it was just a little bit off the mark. So it was a very fun. We laughed. We talked about lots of stuff with the clients. It was a fun counseling session, but it was a little challenging because there were two people that really thought they knew tons about Medicare. So once we got them on the straight and narrow, uh, we were able to conclude that session. And then after they left, we got to process how to deal with clients that are like that, how to redirect clients, and how to present accurate information without insulting the clients who think they know what they're doing. And just the basics of Medicare and being a new to Medicare client counselor. So it was a long session, but it really was very fruitful. And the gals said they learned a lot. And I was able to mentor two at one time. Um, Another story I have just quickly, a lady who is new to being a ship counselor had a bunch of questions, and I needed to go up to check out the counseling site anyway and take some supplies to her. And when we sat down after we had toured the lovely office that she has for ship counseling, she got out her notebook, and there were quite a few questions, which I was happy to answer. And she was so thoroughly prepared, making the most of our time together. So that was a mentoring session that really didn't include a client, but it included several scenarios and several clarification questions. And I just really enjoyed meeting her. And I'm looking forward to working with her as she develops into being a terrific ship counselor, which I know she will be. So those were a couple of my mentoring stories.
Thank you, ladies. Yes. And I think that just kind of paints the picture of how our volunteers are supported by our staff members here at SHIP. And it is important. We want to have fun while we volunteer, and we want to promote that free and that impartial information for Medicare beneficiaries. But we take it very seriously about our training and making sure that our counselors feel comfortable when they are ready to counsel Medicare beneficiaries. We want them to feel prepped. We want them to feel ready and that they have the tools and that they have the information to where they're confidently able to counsel and help those Medicare beneficiaries, because that is the mission of SHIP, is to provide that local impartial help for Medicare beneficiaries. So we have fun while we do it, but we do take making sure that our counselors are prepared and ready. We take that very seriously because we couldn't do this without them. Our volunteer counselors, and sometimes we have counselors that we call voluntolds, and those voluntold counselors, their place of work, so their employer has teamed up with SHIP to be a community partner, and we call our community partners that provide SHIP counseling at their locations to the public, we call those community partners our SHIP sites. So sometimes our SHIP sites are organizations that have their own employees that are the SHIP counselors. And sometimes our SHIP sites are organizations that have the counseling location, and then a volunteer is able to provide the counseling for that community organization. So all of our SHIP sites, all of our volunteers, whether they're volunteers or voluntold, we are very, very, very appreciative of all of them, and really appreciate the partnership of the organizations that host the sites and the counselors that put in that time and effort and dedication to helping Medicare beneficiaries. We have over, correct me if I'm wrong, ladies, but I think we have over 100 sites throughout the state. And so a site or that community partner organization that provides the SHIP counseling, these are all open to the public. And we do have a couple different ways where you can find a local SHIP site near you. But when you call that local SHIP site or you go to that location, the purpose of that is to provide a place where you can go and get local help with your Medicare needs. So we couldn't do that without our counselors, but we also couldn't do it without our hosting organizations either. So thank you to both. All right, so before we move on about SHIP sites, Susan, I'm going to bring you back into the chat here just to tell us a little bit about not a SHIP site necessarily, but something that a SHIP site can add on to their services, or maybe a community partner that works with SHIP in a different way.
Yeah, thanks, Melanie. Those are agencies and services and locations that we call enrollment centers. And enrollment centers have trained staff who help Medicare beneficiaries apply for some programs that pay for some or all of what Medicare doesn't. And there are primarily two programs. One is Extra Help that helps with prescription drug medications. And the other one is the Medicare Savings Program, which can help pay for your Part B monthly premium, and it can pay for out-of-pocket costs like copays and deductibles and coinsurance. So enrollment centers help people in all kinds of ways generally, but helping folks apply for these programs is so important. And to have a truly local, trusted place where they can go to get help has really helped us help Hoosier Medicare beneficiaries.
Thank you, Susan. And I 100% agree to that. So let's move along here and talk about how you can become a SHIP volunteer. So we've talked about our new counselor training and our mentoring a little bit, and I wanted to be sure that you know that it is a free training program that we offer to all of our interested individuals in becoming a SHIP counselor. So we do have an online application that you fill out. It has a little bit of a screening, and then we do complete a background check on all of our volunteer counselors and our voluntolds for that matter as well. So any SHIP counselor does go through that background check. And then we do make sure there's no conflict of interest. So SHIP stands to be that impartial resource for Medicare information. So we are not affiliated with any insurance company or brokering agency. And so we make sure that our counselors do not have a conflict of interest with that as well. So once we complete that application, We then find the closest and most convenient training program for you. So we have some in-person trainings throughout the state that we offer. And then we also have a monthly new counselor training that's offered virtually. So that is something that you can kind of pick and talk to your volunteer supervisor about what training would be best for you. And then once you do fill out that application, usually you are reached out to by the local volunteer supervisor, and they talk to you more about the commitment of being a SHIP counselor, making sure it's a good fit for you and for SHIP. And then we get you going with that training program. And then, like Susan and Megan shared with us, after the training's completed, we go through the mentoring program. So we make sure that you are ready to go and that you feel like you're ready to go before we just let you fly and be that independent SHIP counselor. So, ladies, anything to add about becoming a new SHIP volunteer?
I would just say, it is a lot of information to know. It's a lot of information to keep up on, but I think our counselors would tell you the gratification they get from helping people, seeing that light bulb go off when they finally understand Medicare and its options is the most gratifying thing. And it is worth keeping a lot of information in your head and attending our regular trainings because you just can't beat helping somebody.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said that better. Thank you, Susan. And with that, we want to give a shout out to our existing SHIP counselors and volunteers for all that they do, all of the volunteer time and the dedication. And like Susan said, keeping all of that information in their heads. But if you can't keep it all in your heads, we also provide. That's why we have those ongoing trainings, those ongoing resources, and lots of written materials that you can refer to during your counseling appointments. So I think as we conclude our session today, we're going to each share a little bit, a little client or a little counselor story that we have, just to show a little bit more about the true magic that our SHIP counselors provide throughout the community. And I'm going to go ahead and start. I have a SHIP counselor. We were actually counselors together before I worked at SHIP, and we both worked for the local council on aging. And we both kind of went different ways. And she joined the police department when she left the Council on Aging. And she was sharing with me. I actually had called her because I was looking through some of the data entry that she had reported, and there was an interesting entry. And she was on duty one evening as a police officer, and she had arrested someone that was caught shoplifting at a local retail store. And the product that this person had shoplifted was some durable medical equipment that they were caregiving for this person, and they shoplifted some durable medical equipment that was not approved by their insurance provider. So this SHIP counselor, who was on duty as a police officer, didn't just arrest this person, but while they were on their way, to the local jail, she was doing SHIP counseling. So she didn't just ask, she didn't just arrest this person. She asked like why this was needed, like, if they have appropriate insurance and they have appropriate coverage. And so then she was able to figure out what insurance coverage the lady that she was caregiving for, the care recipient, able to figure out what insurance they had, did a screening for Medicare savings programs, told her where she could go and apply for that, and figured out that the product was covered under insurance. It just was not approved at that time by the plan that they had. So figuring out all of these puzzle pieces, helping this person understand that while in the back of a cruiser, I feel like that's going the extra mile as SHIP counseling. So, not putting a plug in to the local, police officers that you should become a SHIP counselor, but just saying that our SHIP counselors provide counseling in all areas and in all ways. And I think once you have that information, and I think it was Susan that mentioned it earlier, you see those light bulbs going off, you see the gratitude that people, you can't help but not want to help. And so once a ship counselor, always a ship counselor. All right, and I'll let whoever, Megan or Susan, wants to go first and just share us a little story about one of your volunteers.
I can go first. That is a crazy story, Melanie, and thank you for sharing. I don't think mine will top that, but we'll see. So, I've got many stories I could share, as I'm sure Melanie or Susan could too. But I was mentoring one, or actually two, of our ship counselors at North Shore up north, and we met with this lady who was a fairly recent widow, and she had a red, white, and blue Medicare card that just showed that she had Part A. She didn't have any other part of Medicare, and she didn't know why. She didn't understand Medicare, like most people honestly don't understand Medicare. And we started digging into her situation, and she disclosed that she was on her husband's employer insurance. I think she came and met with us in the summer or late spring. And she was on her husband's insurance. That previous December, he was due to retire at the end of December. So the husband did everything. He did the bills, he worked, he handled the insurance. Well, he actually passed away that same month that he was due to retire. And she was grieving. She didn't know what to do with the Medicare or the work insurance. The husband's employer put her on her Cobra plan. So she did have some insurance. She just didn't have the Medicare. Well, the counselor that I was helping mentor at the time, she just took charge. And within minutes, we were on the phone with Social Security. We were getting information from them. She was still within her 8-month special enrollment period. So the counselor helped her get the paperwork from her employer or the husband's employer and got that over to Medicare or Social Security to apply for B. And within a couple months, she had all her pieces of Medicare set up and was fully comfortable and educated on Medicare from the counselor. So at the end of the day, she had all of her needs met and she was educated on Medicare. So that's my story.
I don't really have, well, I have lots of stories, but I would just like to say one of the terrific parts of being involved with the SHIP program in Indiana is getting to know our staff and our counselors all over the state. You know, it's so enjoyable to work an event with somebody that you don't know, but by the end of the event, you do know them and you've shared some personal stories and you've laughed and had a good time and you've been able to help people at that event or during that counseling session. So just expanding your network of contacts, both professionally and personally, is just a terrific part about being involved with Indiana SHIP.
Absolutely. Thank you both for sharing both of your stories and those words. I appreciate it. And we really do appreciate all of our counselors, our partnering organizations that help us serve the entire state. So we are a small group of coworkers here at SHIP. So we definitely are very thankful for all of our community partners and all of our volunteers. And that is how we're able to serve those Medicare beneficiaries statewide. So we very much appreciate those partnerships. I just added to the comments on our video our website, medicare.in.gov, where you can go to learn more about becoming a SHIP counselor and just more about the Indiana SHIP program and Medicare resources in general. But we do have our online application available on medicare.in.gov. if you're looking and watching this presentation and you're thinking, oh, I am interested in being a ship counselor, or maybe you're thinking, I know someone that needs help from a ship counselor or from Indiana Ship. So whatever that need is, this is how you can get a hold of us. So you can give us a call at our 1-800 helpline. You can visit us on that medicare.in.gov website. And if you're watching us on Facebook right now, then you probably already follow us. But if you don't, go ahead and give us that like. And then you can also reach out to us on X, the former Twitter, and YouTube and LinkedIn. So we hope to connect with you, and whether it be in person, virtually, or on social media. So this is how you can get a hold with us and connect with Indiana Ship. So we're not done yet. We have a presentation next Monday for our Medicare Monday Facebook Live, and we are doing a series of presentations, the ABCs and Ds of Medicare. So if you're familiar with Medicare, or maybe you're not, we're going to break Medicare down by the letter. So we're going to start next week with Part A. So Medicare can be a little bit of an alphabet soup. So we're going to go through the alphabet one letter by one letter with you. So we're going to learn all about Part A coverage and costs next Monday. All of our presentations stream right here on our Facebook page. They go live at 10 a.m. unless we're having technical difficulties, but typically 10 a.m. If you don't catch us live, these videos are saved to our Facebook page for later viewing. And then they do make their way over to our YouTube channel eventually as well. So you can see those videos on either platform. All right. And then Susan, I feel like I just keep bringing you in here, but can you tell our viewers a little bit about how we're going to round out the month of April on our Medicare Monday on the 29th?
Yes, terrific. So on April 29th, the last Monday of the month, we are going to have a special guest, Antoinette Holt from the Indiana State Department of Health. She is the director of the Minority Health Department. So she is going to be with us sharing some special information about minority health and how Indiana stands with that. And probably, hopefully, she's going to be talking about the Indiana Black Expo, which is coming up in June, which is the largest Black Expo in the country, right here in Indiana. So Antoinette is always a terrific presenter, and she's just a lot of fun and presents some terrific information. So mark your calendar for the next 2 Mondays to join us at 10 a.m. Eastern Time to hear about Part A and then about minority health in Indiana.
Absolutely. All right, ladies. Well, I think that concludes today's, or this month, I should say, What to Know Wednesday presentation. So again, big shout out to our community partners and our ship volunteers alike. We appreciate everything that you do. And to everyone out there watching, just happy National Volunteer Month. So we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.